Hello and welcome back to the Ancient Creeks Podcast. This is episode 1, part 2 of the Renaissance. And what is it?
What is what?
The Renaissance, the rebirth of ideas, art, and cultural revival in Europe during the 14th to 17th centuries.
Okay, but if you haven't checked out part one, make sure you go do that before you listen to this.
I'm Anna.
I'm Levi.
I'm Ezra,
And I'm Ada.
and we're the Cricks Podcast.
Okay.
So today we're going to be talking more about the Reformation, and the part of the Renaissance was kind of the religious part of it. And one of the main characters of the Reformation was Martin Luther. And he was this German dude who wrote a bunch of, he wrote the 95 Theses on why the church should be like changed and stuff.
He even
Sorry,
married a
I'm-
nun.
He basically wanted to put an end to a hierarchy.
Mm.
And he wanted people to actually read the Bible so they could understand it for themselves instead of just the priests reading it to them at church.
Yeah.
And because he didn't believe in a lot, since the Bible didn't agree with a lot of things the priests were preaching in their churches, and he wanted to change that.
Yeah. I mean, it started with one of the things that he kind of disagreed with was indulgences, which kind of was like they had this theory that there was purgatory, where it was like when Catholics die and they weren't good enough to go to heaven and they weren't bad enough to go to hell, they went to purgatory, which is kind of like this medium place where they were just like floating around waiting to go somewhere. And basically the Catholic priests and just whoever worked for them was like, you can buy them out of purgatory and they can go to heaven. And so they're basically just like making money off of people who are grieving. And that was one of the things that Martin Luther was kind of like, I don't think that's true. You're literally just making money off of people whose relatives died. And so then he didn't like that, and then he also didn't like the Catholic.
Oh, was
Church.
it the idea of marriage?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think he had a problem with that, but he did end up marrying a nun, a former nun actually. She was a nun, and then she went away from that, and he ended up marrying her, and then he wrote a book on marriage and just like how you should do marriage and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, he was kind of like the what's the word? The starter of the Protestant religion.
Yeah.
And the Catholics actually did not like that, so they were trying to do a counter Reformation where they were trying to get Catholics, like Catholic, to be the main religion of England, because this was mostly, well, England and just Europe altogether. But he was just the starter of that. And then another weird thing about the Reformation was like there was this king, Henry VIII, that he wanted to divorce his wife and marry another lady, but the Catholic Church didn't allow him. So he basically just got rid of the Catholic Church in his country, and then he just made something called the English Church, right?
Was it?
New English.
I don't remember it.
It was
But he changed the church just so that
he could divorce his
he could
wife.
change the rules around.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just think that's so like almost childish, because it's like, just because you're not getting what you want, you're gonna make a whole new religion, and it's technically like they're called the Anglicans now.
But then the interesting thing is, like, what basically started the Reformation was actually the invention of the printing press, because it was able to make people spread ideas on paper.
A lot
Because
faster.
and ideas used to be handwritten or from the church, but now people had more access. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so people could actually like they first started just printing out like the Bible. So like lots of people could just go and like read the Bible for themselves and understand it for themselves and actually know what like what they're actually following.
You guys ever heard of the Bloody Mary?
Oh,
Bloody Mary
yeah.
was Catholic.
Yeah, she was Catholic. Oh yeah, she was. I think she was the ruler after Henry VIII. It was either after or
Yeah.
before, and then she was part of the Counter Reformation that was trying to get people to be Catholic. And basically, she executed a bunch of Protestants, and that's how she got the name Bloody Mary.
She's actually Mary the First.
Yeah, Mary the First of England.
Yeah.
She was married to Philip II of Spain.
Really?
In
was?
1554.
Oh yeah, because one of the main Catholic countries was France and Spain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that like strengthened her Catholic alliances.
What was it that John Calvin did? Like I remember that name, but I can't remember what was like what he did in the Reformation. It was like he
Well, he definitely wanted people to have like access to scriptures.
Mhm.
So basically, what Martin Luther wanted. So they have the same ideas. But yeah, I kind of forgot. Do you remember?
He had the Calvin's Institute on the Christian religion. So it was like
yeah.
he like wrote up all these theological ideas to about the Christian religion and what he believed about it.
Mhm. Yeah. So,
So
like
he was like important for Reformation.
yeah, him and Martin Luther were like the fathers of the Reformation, I guess.
He's actually Christian though, apparently.
Oh, really?
John
Yeah.
Calvin.
Uh-huh.
They
I
call
think
it
I think that was probably like after all the Catholic stuff because he was in part of the Counter Reformation. I think he changed to Christian.
Calvinism.
Maybe, yeah.
There's apparently Calvinism. Yeah, Calvinism?
Calvinism.
What does he?
Huh.
Yeah. What?
There's Calvinism.
There's
A religion?
Calvinism.
Like a different part.
It's
form
like
of
another
Christian, like of the things that he believed and what he wrote about.
yeah, it's another branch of Christianity.
Which is weird because it suggests believers fall away from their faith and lose their salvation. What?
He also had some pretty controversial beliefs for his time that God has already determined who will be saved and who will be damned,
Mm.
independent of human actions.
Well, at least he wanted people to have access to scriptures, so he had positive intentions.
Yeah.
And he did help
Mm-hmm.
the Reformation a lot.
Mm.
So the difference between John Calvin and Henry VIII is that while Calvin's Reformation was deeply religious, Henry's was more about consolidating his power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Henry VIII was definitely more for selfish reasons than John Calvin's
He just wants to
Reformation.
divorce his wife, and Pope doesn't allow him to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like John Calvin actually wanted to like show the people like his like what he thought about the Bible and different theological ideas he had.
Yeah. And I mean, the Reformation isn't just like religion based. Like, it's not just about like, oh, they changed religions and stuff, but they also, it also just changed like the entire course of Europe because it weakened the hold that the Pope had on Europe and just like all the Catholic states. Like, there were so many that were changing to Protestant countries that it was just, it changed the whole course of Europe.
No, and the Reformation like also actually had a push for education, especially in like Protestant areas.
Yeah.
Because Protestants believe that everyone should read the Bible for themselves. So literacy became more important because without that you can't really read it. And so it actually had an impact on education as well.
So like wherever like the Protestant like beliefs went, then people would actually like become smart because they want to learn how to read, learn how to write, so they could actually read the Bible, and actually made like society grow better.
The literacy of Europe probably like skyrocketed during that time just because
Yeah.
was Protestantism or whatever it's called would like just became very popular during that time.
And the printing press making it like easily, like books more easily accessed.
What do you think was like the Catholic Church's response to the Reformation, though? Since that was kind of like taking away some of their power, especially with the popes and stuff.
I think, yeah, I mean, they definitely had a counter Reformation talking about, like trying to get them to, like, kind of Bloody Mary was also
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
counter Reformation, and
Killing a bunch of them.
yeah, they definitely tried to respond with the counter Reformation.
They actually had the Council of Trent, which addressed the like issues of church practices, certain church practices. So they actually like reaffirmed traditional Catholic doctrines and things, and they're trying to prove that like the Catholic way was the right way.
Also, we said Calvinism was a religion, but it was actually just a belief system about grace.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that
So-
makes more sense.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we cleared it up. Can you see any connections between the Reformation and the Enlightenment that follow, or how might one have paved the way for the others?
I feel like for the Reformation, because the Reformation really like it promoted like individual beliefs of the Bible, like it promoted like for people to actually read the Bible for themselves and interpret it for themselves what they believed about it.
Yeah, it encouraged people to like question authority and think for themselves.
Yeah, instead of just the Pope always just every Sunday like
Yeah.
reading the Bible to them and interpreting it for them and just saying that's how it is and not any other way. They can actually go and read the Bible for themselves and understand it themselves.
Yeah, because if people could challenge the church, why not challenge other traditional beliefs? The Reformation like really opened the door for the Enlightenment's emphasis on reason and personal freedom.
Yeah, and I think it also, the challenging of authority and just like other ideas definitely opened the door for like scientists to like more scientists and more philosophers and just more people to like be like what is happening out in space and what is happening here on the ground, like because there was so much that they still didn't know
Yeah.
about just the earth and life in general. So I think the Enlightenment definitely was kickstarted by the Reformation.
Yeah, but it also made religion more personal because instead of relying on priests and rituals, people were encouraged to read the Bible themselves and focus on their individual relationship with God, right?
So it took away like that the priest is just this all like enlightened guy and he just knows everything basically.
It took away the middle person so that you can actually connect with God.
Yeah, and it made it more like less like just a central authority where there's just one guy that just commands it all and says interprets it for you. You can actually go and interpret it yourself and understand it yourself.
How do you think that the Reformation kind of like influenced the rise of religious wars and conflicts in Europe, such as the 30 Years' War? It was very, again, I keep using this word kickstarted, but it very much started like wars based on like religious stuff. And I don't know if the Crusades was before or after this, but um, I think it was
I think
before,
it was
but
before.
yeah. But I think the religious wars definitely um, were very prominent in that time as well.
Caused a lot of tension.
Like the 30 Years' War, like just between like the Protestants and the Catholic states of
Yeah.
the Roman Empire.
I think it also, I don't think they meant, like, whenever Martin Luther and John Calvin kind of started with these new ideas, they didn't mean for it to turn into, like, war and stuff like that. But I mean, like, Europe was basically a battleground for, like, the remainder, like, for the entirety of the wars.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just made it a bloodbath almost. But
So like if they didn't agree with what they thought, they just wanted to like,
yeah.
go to war with them. But it could also be for like more selfish reasons, and they just covered it up with religious reasons
Hmm.
for the war. Like they could get more power if they took over these Protestant
Yeah,
city
it
states.
was kind of like an excuse to go into war and
Yeah,
fight
kind
with
of.
other people. And,
And, and you could get like all these like Catholics because you could tell them that they're fighting for their beliefs,
yeah,
for their
it was definitely a way to get people to join a war that
yeah.
I would
could have
love
had
to
other
see
reasons.
Catholic and Protestant clash with each other.
I don't think that would be a very good idea.
It would be an epic battle, like the Avengers
It-
Endgame.
It'd probably
It
be
did
more like a
happen.
battle of the wits than more
Like-
fighting.
like an actual battle or like
Any kind of battle.
Just
Any kind
Just
of
that's
any
battle.
kind
kind
of
of
what the 30 Years War was.
The 30 Years War was definitely more of a physical
It
battle
was a
than it
physical
was a
between the
Who was it
Protestant
between?
and Catholic.
Protestant and Catholics.
Like
Protestant.
the
Yeah.
different city states in the Holy Roman Empire.
Hmm. How do you think the Reformation changed the political landscape of Europe during the 16th century? I think the kings and princes and just like the royal people were like, oh, we can kind of make our own religions now. So then, well, I don't think they made their own religion. I think that was mostly just Henry VIII, but I think they kind of saw it as like a way to break away from the,
Pope's control.
yeah. So it was just,
Yeah, because Henry VIII actually just like anointed himself to be like the Pope. So then he could be the ruler of his like
yeah,
his kingdom and
the
of
church.
The church.
Yeah,
The England Church. What do you name it? I think it's
Church of England or
Church of
something
England.
like that.
Yeah.
The
He just put himself in charge of it, so he could just decide the rules and decide the religion.
Well, some supported the Reformation for religious reasons, but for many, it was also about power. This
Mhm.
led to like alliances shifting, wars breaking out, and a whole reorganization of political boundaries as well.
Yeah. Definitely changed the. I mean, there's probably so many more countries that has like been. What's the word? More countries since then, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, would you go back in time and like make your own church with your rules?
That's a
Just like,
fun question. I mean,
Well, would you?
I mean, I would.
Okay.
We'll call it Levi Church.
The Levi.
The
Church.
Levi Reformations.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't think we should do that.
Yeah. I think that would probably change the course of history a little too much.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I was just messing around.
Okay. Hopefully, yes. Well, let's just hope Levi doesn't go back.
Go
Yeah.
back, get a time
Hopefully,
machine.
no one gives Levi a time machine.
Time machine. Wait, where would you find time machine in this world?
In the future.
Okay.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Let's get back on the topic.
Other questions?
Do you think the art piece of like, do you think art had anything to do with the changing of religion, like in that time? Do you think like the art part of the Renaissance had anything to do with changing it, like kind of revamping the religion back then?
That's interesting. Oh.
I mean, they do draw some thing about the Bible stuff, like the Last Feast
Yeah.
with Jesus by Leonardo da Vinci.
They definitely, I think they definitely try to illustrate stuff like that from that time, and they try to have religious aspects to their art. But yeah, I don't know if those paintings like the Statue of David and the Last Feast were painted or sculpted after or before the Reformation.
Because artists like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci started focusing on the human form, showing people as beautiful, complex things. Like, even in religious art, there was more focus on emotion and realism, which reflected the changing views of society, where people were starting to see themselves as more than just subjects of a higher power. They were
Yeah.
individuals with potential.
I feel like some art, like most artists, like Raphael, like painted mostly religious paintings, especially like of Jesus, Mary, and just different like paintings from the Bible, kind of.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they called them Madonnas, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Madonnas.
But a lot of that changed whenever the Reformation came because like Martin Luther and like people that were like changing it, they didn't believe in like worshiping like images of God, you know,
Mm.
because they used to kind of do that. They would have like these pictures of God or Jesus in the churches,
Mm.
so he took down a lot of those.
Yeah, and I mean in the Bible it talks about don't worship idols and
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were kind of making God like an idol and like
Mhm.
making him into a
Oh.
yeah.
form. So they didn't believe in that, and they changed a lot of took
Mm.
down a lot of the paintings.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's why you'll see like all these paintings in the Catholic churches.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've already said this, but the art. I feel like most people think about art during. I feel like most people think about art when they think about the Renaissance, but it was kind of more religious based and stuff.
Yeah, like they just show their beliefs or how they interpreted
Mm.
that part of the Bible. I have lots of symbolism about it.
Yeah.
Should we have like one more question? You think, or
I think that's it. Maybe. Or do you have any
you guys
question,
have any other?
Anna?
I think we've soaked up all we can from these questions. So, well, we'll end it today. Make sure to like and subscribe
Like and
and
subscribe.
tell your friends about our podcast.
Yeah.
Tune in next week for our second episode. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yep.
Bye bye.
Bye.